Los Angeles and Sacramento had one of the NBA's biggest rivalries in the early 2000s. LA had flashy international superstars like Kobe and Shaq, while the Kings had a solid core group of players, but they could just never get the job done against LA. 2002 felt different. Shaq looked out of shape, and LA superstars were starting to beef. Meanwhile, Sacramento had the NBA's best regular season record and home court advantage. It was the perfect setup for one of the most bizarre and downright bonkers NBA playoff series of all time. There was super offensive trash talk from Shaq.
I'm not worried about the Sacramento Queens.
Rumors of Kobe being poisoned by Kings fans, but nothing was stranger than the massive, long-lasting conspiracy theory that was hatched out of Game 6. The Kings led the series 3-2 going into the infamous Game 6. They were just one win away from keeping Kobe and Shaq from their third consecutive finals appearance. And that is when the real madness started. It's May 31st, 2002, Lakers-Kings at the Staples Center. It's an elimination game. The referee crew is Bob Delaney, Ted Bernhardt, and Dick Bavetta. In the first half, the fouls were piling up quickly for the Kings. Too quickly. Vlade Divac fouled out due to calls like this one. Not the most convincing case for a foul. But Vlade was no stranger to fouling out. He fouled out 4 times before in this postseason and would foul out in Game 7 too. The Kings' best defender, Scott Pollard, also fouled out after only 11 minutes of play. Unlike Divac, Pollard didn't get in foul trouble a lot, but he was defending Shaq the whole game. Chris Webber was in foul trouble for most of the game too. Everyone knew that the Kings and Lakers were going to play a tight game because of their rivalry, but it seemed to Kings fans like the calls were only going one way. The most questionable officiating of the series came in the fourth quarter. With 3 minutes to go, despite losing Divac and Pollard, the Kings had a 2-point lead. Here, Chris Webber is about to score 2 points, but he's called for an offensive foul on Robert Horry. Horry sells the flop well, and instead of falling behind by 4, the Lakers get the ball back. Alternatively, Webber did sort of lean into Horry, but either way, Bill Walton agrees it's a bad call.
And this is a terrible call.
A couple possessions later, Doug Christie is called for a foul while Chris Webber is making an incredible block on Bryant. Again, the announcers are in disbelief over the call.
Mike Bibby can't believe it.
Later on in the fourth, Mike Bibby takes an elbow to the face by Kobe Bryant, denying the Kings an opportunity for a tying basket. The referee is standing right in front of the play watching Bryant and doesn't make the call. But he does call Christie for the intentional foul on Bryant seconds later. Bryant makes his free throws and the Lakers go up by 3 points. In the fourth quarter, the Lakers shot 27 free throws against the Kings. 27 in one quarter. The Kings only had 9 free throws. Even if you think some of these fouls were 50-50 calls, it does seem suspicious that none of them were going the Kings' way. Or does it? The Lakers' offense was much more reliant on taking the ball into the paint and creating contact situations. The Kings, on the other hand, took more outside shots. Also, Shaq was a 76% free throw shooter that night, which no one could have seen coming. He shot better from the line than the Kings did the entire game. The Lakers won Game 6 and tied up the series 3-3. After the game, newspaper columnists and reporters were quick to point out the poor officiating. Bill Simmons wrote for ESPN that, from an officiating standpoint, it was the most one-sided game of the past decade. At least 6 dubious calls against the Kings in the fourth quarter alone. Bill Plaschke wrote in the LA Times, were the referees trying to make up for a badly called Game 5 with an even worse called Game 6? Even Ralph Nader, yes, that Ralph Nader, was calling for an investigation into the NBA.
Something stinks in La La Land, but the NBA owners and David Stern didn't listen.
Because that's totally a normal thing for Ralph Nader to do. All circumstances considered, the Kings still came so close to winning the series. Game 7 had 16 ties and 19 lead changes, and fortunately for the NBA, the highest rating of any non-finals game in the post-Jordan era. How interesting. The Lakers went on to win their 3rd consecutive finals, sweeping the Nets in 4 games, and the scandal was set aside. For a little bit.
Tonight, a former NBA referee says the playoff series between the Kings and Lakers in 2002 was fixed.
That is CBS's Sacramento affiliate reporting what many fans suspected for years. Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals was rigged. Or at least one guy was saying it was rigged. So who was the former referee they were talking about? It's Tim Donaghy, a longtime NBA referee with dubious credibility. What made Donaghy come forward with his allegations? Well, Donaghy did some crimes. A lot of crimes. He was the subject of an FBI investigation in 2007 and was charged with partaking in a whole lot of criminal activity, like taking cash from mobsters to influence the point spread of NBA games that he was reffing. Donaghy pleaded guilty to some of the charges in 2008, but not without trying to bring down the whole NBA with him. In June 2008, shortly before his sentencing, Donaghy's lawyer released this news-breaking document. In May of 2002, only one NBA series went to 7 games, the Kings-Lakers series. The Kings were Team 5, the team that could have ended the series that night. Team 6 was the Lakers, the team that Donaghy alleged the NBA favored, probably because of their mass appeal, large audience, and megastars like Kobe and Shaq. Referee A was probably Dick Bavetta, the NBA's company man, who Donaghy alleged was acting in the interest of the NBA that night by extending the series to 7 games. 7 games meant another night of primetime advertising, a chance for higher ratings, and more buzz around the NBA's product, good basketball. These allegations sent fans into a frenzy. Every sports channel on TV was discussing Game 6 that night, rehashing every bad foul call that the referees made in the fourth quarter. On ESPN, Bill Plaschke reiterated his belief that the calls were bad.
It was unbelievable. It was the worst officiated game in my sports writing career.
Michael Wilbon doubled down on the poor officiating on PTI, too.
That it was an embarrassment to the league, that it was the worst officiated contest in professional basketball.
Kings fans who already had suspicions about the 2002 Western Conference Finals would feel more validated than they ever would again in their entire lives. But Donaghy had his critics. David Stern denied Donaghy's claims, implying that they were an act of desperation from a guilty man.
He's a singing, cooperating witness who is trying to get as light a sentence as he can.
We shouldn't forget that David Stern let the entire Tim Donaghy scandal happen right under his nose, so discrediting Donaghy at every single turn and making him look like a rogue referee would be in Stern's best interest too. Even after Donaghy's allegations were made, many fans still had doubts. But even if Donaghy were telling the truth, why would the NBA choose to rig this series? Sacramento wasn't a big market team, and no other Lakers series went to 7 games. You could even argue that the Lakers' final series would have been more lucrative to rig since it was with the New York area team. Instead, that series lasted just 4 games. Although I guess maybe it would be less believable for the Nets to play the Lakers to 7 games. As you can see, this theory has some holes. The NBA might have felt like a super team was part of the reason the league was losing viewers in droves. NBC's NBA ratings were down 35% from the 1997-98 season to the 2000-2001 season. The Lakers were the presumed NBA champions before the 2001 playoffs even started, so maybe the 2002 season was just the final straw for the NBA, who needed another team to make the playoffs must-watch TV again. David Stern negotiated a new contract with ABC and Turner that would put most NBA games on ESPN and TNT, aka cable. The NBA was going behind a paywall. As Cavs guard Bimbo Coles told the Akron Beacon, "We've got to find a way to get the ratings back up and get people back in the stands." We can't forget Donaghy's tidbit about the main referee in the scandal, the one who actually made some of the bad calls in Game 6, Dick Bavetta. As Bill Simmons pointed out in his 2002 column about poor officiating, all of the games he could think of with dubious calls were reffed by Dick Bavetta. Bavetta was even the subject of a CBS segment called NBA Refs Crossing the Line. The segment was a total indictment of his character.
Bavetta constantly seeks the spotlight and repeatedly crosses the line when it comes to self-promotion.
It called into question his loyalties and whether he purposely buddies up to coaches and players to get favorable ratings, which can impact which games he's assigned and his salary. This seems to mesh with Donaghy's allegations of referee A being a, quote, company man. Bavetta held the league record for most officiated games when he retired in 2014. He was never allowed to publicly comment on the allegations. Many NBA fans still think that the league is rigged. Anytime a series stretches improbably to 7 games, fans and sometimes wives are quick to point out that the fix is in. 2002 really felt like it could be Sacramento's year. Instead, it's now a year that will live in infamy. The NBA now is as popular as ever, even though some people still think it's rigged. And ratings have bounced back since 2002, which might have a little bit to do with a guy that got drafted in 2003 named LeBron James. Let us know what you think about this conspiracy theory and which one you'd like for us to do next in the comments section.